So go forth and make butterflies pop up. Hello, it's Lee here. Welcome to my channel, and today I'm going to show you how to make the vertical pop-up butterflies that I put into my scroll for Junk Journal January. So I've just been trying to make some instructions up that I will make available to you, but I just realised when I was reading through I've forgotten a couple of things, so we'll adjust it and make the directions make a little bit more sense. So somewhere in here I have butterflies. Here we go. Here they are. So this is what I mean by vertical. So they come up that way. They don't pop up, you know, that way. So there's only really 3 parts to this, which is your hinge, which is this part here, and then your mast, which in this case I made out of jewellery wire. Yeah, and the antenna. And the butterflies themselves, they're double-sided prints, so I printed one image and then printed it, mirror imaged it to make them so they have a front and a back. There's an eyelet on the front here. You don't have to put that on there if you don't want to, and I just attached this pull mechanism so they open and shut like that. Okay, so that's what I'm going to be showing you how to make today, and a couple of variations on that. We'll just get this out of the way. Alrighty, so I've tried to remember everything, all the materials that we'll need, but I'll just make adjustments to this and notes on it. So when we've finished the video, I'll fix this up, so by the time it goes to air, this will be a document that you can download for free if you want to. So the 3 parts, the hinge, the mast and the butterfly. So all the hinge is a piece of book page, and the size of your journal is going to denote how big your hinge is going to be. So this one, it's been made from this type of book page, and it'll make a similar size arrangement as the one I had in my Junk Journal January scroll. So it's just a matter of concertina folding a piece of paper. So I start off, I think it's got about 8 folds in it. So the more folds are in the paper, the better it will work, because it gives it more flexibility. So that's just fold back and forth, and that'll do. Doesn't have to be exact. So that's pretty much your hinge. What you need to do with it is to fold it in half, and you need to stop this from coming apart here. So you can either glue in between each one of the folds, or if you can get a stapler into there, you can use a stapler to staple it together. You need a staple with a long arm on it though. Or like this one, I sewed it on the sewing machine, so that the sewing machine had no problem with that, and I like the way that looks. It's nice and neat. So we'll say we've sewn it, and then you have to glue the middle together, so what we end up is basically like a fan shape, so like that. So that will get glued together. When it gets attached into the book, you're only going to be gluing down one side of it. So this side here, the opening will be facing up, and then if you're going to use an eyelet, you attach it there. Okay, so pretend that's glued into the book. There's an eyelet and a string there, and you'll pull it and it will open down like that. It'll pull that up because that would have been glued together. Alrighty, so I'm just going to glue that together. So folded the paper, secured the center, to stop these bits from coming apart in the middle, because they will if you don't do that. And I'll put some glue on here and glue it together so I can then show you how to do the other bits. It's really important that that is you know, well fastened in the middle. That's super important to have that done. So that's a quick drying glue that I've used. So what I'm going to do is just put it under something to hold it down, put a weight on it. So that's basically how the hinge is made. We'll be doing some more with that later. So the mast, you can either use wire, which is what I used in my other one, or you can use a strip of acetate. So I've just cut some, they're about 1/4 of an inch wide. So what's going to happen is that'll be cut down a bit. Just depends on how far you want them to pop up. So I'll cut that about there, that's about 3 inches. So let's pretend this is our hinge. It's been sewn together and glued, and your mast will get attached to one of these sides. One of these sides here. And then that'll also go in between the 2 layers of your butterflies, or whatever it is that you're going to have popping up. Okay, so that's what you need for your mast. And the butterflies, you need a front and a back, and the mast gets secured in between the 2 layers, the front and the back. And also, if you're going to use antennas, I made mine out of copper wire and they got secured in there as well. That's probably the hardest bit, is to secure the wire in. Okay, so let's show you how to make the antennas. So I used copper wire because it was just a little bit softer, and don't need a great length, or you can make them as long as you want, of course. So I made a loop at the bottom, folded it in half and then twisted it. The main reason is so that when you put that inside the 2 layers of the butterfly, there's more for it to glue, you know, to be glued down, so it's less likely to pull out of the butterfly. So I had a couple of them do that. You can twist the ends around if you want to make little circles on the ends. It's entirely up to you. I'm just using a little pair of round pliers. You can do that with your hand if you don't have the pliers, or you can not do it at all, or you can not even put antennas on your butterflies. So there's the antennas. So they go in there. And if you're using wire, I've just got some pre-cut pieces here. You need to have, just cut that down. Depending on how far up you want your butterflies to pop up, but I would recommend probably 4 inches, something like that. So I'll cut that to approximately 4 inches. Needs to be something at each end of the wire, like a little loop, so there's something, you know, so it won't just pull straight out of in between the layers, the front and the back. That's what I'm trying to say. So what I did was I just put a couple of bends in the wire before I glued it in. Let's try and keep it as flat as possible. Squash that a bit too much. Open it up a bit, yeah, something like that. So that gets glued in, that goes in there, and then the other layer goes on there. And when you're attaching this to this thing here, you also need to put a little bend in it, so that for the same reason. Now, I haven't really perfected a method of attaching them. I've got a couple of different ways, but I haven't worked out what's my favourite way to do it. I think taping the wire in first before gluing is a good idea, just to hold it in place. And you only need just a little piece of tape, so pop that down there and put some tape on it, and then I'll do the same with the butterfly antenna. I mean, these are a little bit flimsy, so obviously they're not going to withstand the inquiring hands of a child, so I wouldn't recommend you give one to a child as part of a child's book. So I've just fastened that on there with the tape, and it's just masking tape, and now I'm going to apply a real good blob of this glue. It's probably going to come out everywhere. Whoops. Just pop it onto that paper because I know it's going to ooze out. But the more glue on there the better. So I really want it to be secure inside there. So that needs to be left to dry. So you can see that's the butterfly. I'll do one with the acetate. So I've got this piece of acetate. Looks like it's about it'll be about 6 inches long. And I've got some birds, double-sided birds here. So I'm going to, and there's no antennas involved in this, so glue in the acetate. Now this will work much better than the wire. I mean, it's less flimsy. One thing about the wire is you can position it however you like. You can bend it so that the butterfly is pointing out at a different angle, whereas with the acetate you can't do that, and whatever way you put that into the hinge is the way it's going to stay. So I'm just going to put some more glue in here, squeeze it out. So spread it around a bit with my fingers. It's going to get sticky, but never mind. Okay, so that's a bird ready to go. I'll do a butterfly on a piece of acetate. I'll just use this short piece here. This time I'm not going to worry about any antennas. I'll do this pink one. And I've put it just slightly at an angle so that it's not just going to be straight up and down when it opens. It'll be at a bit of an angle. So they're way less fiddly to make when they're on the acetate. Okay, let's have a look and see how this is going here. So that should have stuck by now. Yep, that's nice and strong. So that's my hinge. So I'm not going to put an eyelet in it at this point, but if I was, it would go here. So, well, it could go here, but you have to remember that your opening goes up and your eyelet would be on the front, and you need to reinforce that paper if you're going to do that. So let's attach these to it, just so you can see how it all fits together. So I would probably put the butterfly like that. So you stick the butterflies or the birds to the sides of this fan, you know, the concertinas thing. Alright, so with the wire, it's a bit tricky to stick the wire into the hinge. So I'm going to tape it in. And tape it in like that, and then I would glue something over the top of it, a piece of paper, something decorative. I've just got a scrap here from something else I was doing, and that's going to help secure it in there. So that's one in there. Let's put a bird in. So with the bird, because it's on the acetate, it's going to be a bit easier to glue in. You can have them all like behind each other if you want to. It's entirely up to you. So I'm just going to angle this one out a little bit away from the butterfly. I think I'll put it behind there and pop it in there. So you can use anything to cover up how you know where you've glued in the wire or the acetate. You can use book page, you can use washi tape, whatever you feel like. Or you can just leave it so that people can see how it was made. The acetate's not too bad because it's clear and you can just see what's underneath. So there's the bird in there. And pop the butterfly in, and I'll put that butterfly here, I think, in front of the other one. So it's really simple mechanism, it's just a little bit fiddly. Just got to make sure you don't glue the hinge shut. Okay, so I need to let that dry for a little bit, and then I'll show you how to put it into the book and the different ways that can be done. Alright, so you can make these with flowers, you can make it with people, you can pretty much do anything you like. Another way it can be done, and this is just one of my prototypes, is to actually stick the butterflies straight onto the hinge. I was just stuck on some bits of paper, and this one is a butterfly I cut in half just to see whether that would work. It's not too bad. This is before I worked out the thingies with the masts. This is the first one I did. I don't know why that's folded in half like that, but yeah, this is the first one I did. The butterflies aren't matching, but that was my prototype. Okay, so let's see what it looks like when we pop it into a book. So this is the way it looks at the moment. And this is the front, I think. So what you would do is just glue down this side. I'll just do that so I can show you. And this worked perfectly for my my scroll journal. So that would be stuck down there, and when you pull the mechanism, the bird and the butterflies pop up. So the longer the wires and the bits of acetate are, the more they will flop around like they're flying, sort of thing. Like that. And another way that you could do it is if this was done horizontally. So I'm just going to I'll show you with this. You put it this way, stuck both sides of it down into the hinge of a book, and have your butterflies and things facing forward, so that when you open the book they would pop up like that. Oh, just a little bit of glue where it shouldn't be. Wondering why it wasn't opening up properly. Yeah, so that's the way it was done. So for the scroll it worked perfectly because it only took up that much space. It could be rolled, and yeah, it didn't get in the way. Okay, so I'll just put that aside and make another one from start to finish. And just use a piece of book page. The only reason I'm folding it in half into the middle is because I like to make sure I get my folds similar distances apart without having a bit out the end left over that I have to cut off. I'll show you what happens if you don't secure the middle bit. So there's the concertina. So it gets folded in half and the middle bit gets glued together. But if you don't secure those bits in there, see, and it's stuck down to the page, it can just pull up like that and it won't work. So it needs to be secured in some way. So glue is an option. Just a little bit of glue in each of the little valleys. Try not to do what I just did and get glue everywhere. And then we need to do that on the other side. Just the tiniest little bit, and that'll keep that together. Okay, so that's been glued through the centre. It needs to be glued in the middle here, like so. You wait for that to dry, and that's the hinge. Now, I'm going to put a clip on that, and I'm going to I'll attach an eyelet to this one so you can see how that's done. And I do need to strengthen that piece of paper there, otherwise the eyelet will pull straight out of it. So I'm just going to glue on a little patch of this paper here. Put that on there. Okay, so I've just punched a little hole in that, and I'm going to put a little blue eyelet in it. Okay, so that's in there. And now attach a piece of string or something. Okay. Maybe a little piece of the white ribbon here. Just something that you can pull on, like so. Alrighty, here you can decorate these up any way you like. I've got some little Tim Holtz thingamajigs here, some little decorations and some die cut bits and pieces. So I'm going to put, what am I going to put on this one? I'll use the butterflies again, and I'm going to use acetate. So I'm going to cut them a little bit longer. So I'll do 4. Alrighty. So we won't be having antennas on these butterflies because they're going into the acetate. I'm going to try this glue, which is hot glitter glue. See how well that holds. Okay, so I've got the front and the back together in there. That one's there. Do one of these little ones. Okay, so I've got the acetate secured in between the 2 layers of the butterfly. Do one of these blue ones. These are quite thick, like width-wise, so getting nice and chunky. Good place for the acetate to sit. And one more bit. Use these gold ones. Oh, hang on, these ones. I like these ones. So I'm just going to angle that one over a little bit. Okay. Now, before I put them on, I'm going to just put a couple of little decorations on here. So I've got a little pot of jug full of sunflowers. Pop them on. What else is here? Got some little flowers. Have little flowers sticking out the sides if you wanted to. These are so tiny. They're really hard to handle. I like this little blue flower. I might just pop that at the side. There. And one of these. This is a spare butterfly. You can just sit in there like that. Just for decorative purposes. So how are we going for length? Try and keep the longer ones towards the front because they'll stand up better, and pop the shorter ones at the back. This is a shorter one. So you don't want to put one onto the very back because it won't come up at all. Place a bit of glue in there. You just stick that in there. I think I just stuck the wrong one in. I meant to put a shorter one. That's alright. So at this point you can put something over it. Could use another one of these butterflies. We can just put a piece of paper, whatever you like. Let's just stick a butterfly in there. I mean, you could decorate these to whatever length you like. And I'm just going to wrap that butterfly around and over. So what I'm trying to do really is to cover up that hinge. Not the hinge, the mast, where the mast is joined on. So I've got this one to go at the front. These are shorter ones. So I'll put this one with a bit of different colour on. I'm just going to shorten the mast a little bit. And I'm going to pop that one on there, in there. Put some glue in. Pop them in there like that. And put something over that. What have I got here? Another little sunflower will do. And get it in there. They'll probably never be seen at the back, but it's just a nice finishing touch. Okay, so that's two of them in there. Okay, this blue one now. I'm going to put the blue one in here. And put it behind this blue flower. And put a little blue flower punch out over the top of it, soak up the extra glue, and then I've got a purple one left over, and what have I got here? Put that over the top of it, and the purple one can go here. Put some blue in there. Changing the angle of that a little bit. So that's what it looks like when it's flat. Just going to gently open that up because I've got a little bit of excess glue in there. I need to get rid of that. I don't want them stuck together. There we go. Okay, so I just need to let that dry and then I can put it into the book. That's what it looks like. Okay, so let's pretend it is going into this book. We're just going to glue down the back part. And you can have them so they poke out from the top of the page as well, just a little bit. So I'll do that with this one. So I'll put it in the middle of the page, close that up. Pretend it's a closed book. Open it up and pull on it and not pop the butterflies. Need to make sure that when you're gluing them on that you let it dry. Don't fold it back together again until the glue dries. Okay, so that's pretty much it. So variations, of course, is you can use other things than butterflies, like birds, flowers, people even. You can attach the butterflies directly onto the hinge. Similar fashion to what I've done here. Okay, so I've got a couple of bigger butterflies. So what you could do with them is just attach a big butterfly like that. Just pop one on. Okay, so one there like that. You could pop another one on the other side. And another one here. So they sit flat and then they pop up. These are probably better on the backs, towards the back of the hinge. But anyway, it's all nice and pretty. And you know, obviously that butterfly couldn't go in that book because of the size of it. But if you just turn it this way so you can see what it looks like when it's opened up. I think you can see. I actually quite like the ones just stuck on the hinge. And you could make the hinges wider. You just need a bigger piece of paper. Alrighty, I hope you've enjoyed that. If you've got any questions, please let me know in the comments. I hope I've made that seem easy to do. Probably when I watch this back I'll see where I could have improved on my instructions, but anyway, we'll see how we go. And I'll have this document available for anyone who wants to print it off. You can have it for free. Yeah, so it's there if you want to try and have a go at making some yourself. Try it with different things, different sizes of hinges. Maybe if like this is about 1/4 of an inch, and maybe if these bits of acetate were like only 1/8 of an inch wide, you might get more movement out of them. You could glue it between the spine so that as the book opens up, the butterflies pop up. You know, there's a whole heap of things you could do. You're only limited by your imagination. And you don't have to use book pages, you can use anything else, but you just need to remember you need to fold it in the middle. So I did try this with a heavier paper and it didn't work because I couldn't get it to fold in the middle once I'd concertinaed the paper. But anyway, so that's the way it's done. There's no special science to it. Here's the ones with the wires, or a wired one. And yeah, so pretty cute. And everybody will think you're really clever because you did them. So I hope you enjoyed that. And leave any comments you've got, any questions you've got, leave them in the comments. Give me a thumbs up and I'll see you in the next video. So cheers from Australia. Hooroo. So go forth and make butterflies pop up. Bye.